everyone and welcome back to another video. I hope you've all been having a wonderful week. Today I'm doing another Let's Doodle video, and the Let's Doodle videos are a series of videos where I am playing around with new art supplies or techniques, trying out new mediums, sharing any tips that I have, and just sort of playing around and having fun with different art supplies and techniques. Today I'm using this set of 12 Promarkers by Set. A couple of things I'd like to quickly clarify before I open the packet up. First of all, you've probably seen the Promarkers all over YouTube recently. A lot of artists have been receiving sets to try out from Winsor and Newton. Now these are the Set Promarkers, and as far as I understand it, these are exactly the same as the Winsor and Newton ones, and what's happened is that Promarkers were originally Set, and now Winsor and Newton, they're being rebranded. So the Winsor and Newton Promarkers that you might see around now are exactly the same ink as these, they just have a slightly different label that says Winsor and Newton on it instead. In terms of the marker and the ink quality, it's exactly the same. These just say Set and the new ones say Winsor and Newton. That's as far as I understand it anyway. The thing I wanted to mention was that this is not a sponsored video, so I've bought this set myself. So this is the Magna Fantasy Set. It comes with 12 markers and a blender, and it comes in this rather nice plastic packaging here. And if I open it up, you can see all 12 markers all have little sections that they pop into. It comes out with this little fold out here, and what's nice is that you can see all the colours you get. And it also comes with this pretty illustration here, which I think you can download the line art from the Set website, and then you can use this set to colour this particular image in if you want. And yes, there's some information here to do with shading and using the markers to create this image. And then on the back, there's some more information and the names of all the colours you get in the set. And I chose this set in particular because it had some nice skin tones, and I liked the pastel colours, so it had some greens, some blues, some pinks and skin tones, and I thought that was a really nice selection. The markers come out of the packaging really easily, and I'm just going to set aside the blender because I don't personally use the blenders that much, so I'm just going to set that aside. These are alcohol based markers like the Copics, but they're not refillable, so once the markers run dry you have to throw it out and buy a whole new marker, as opposed to the Copic markers. When it runs dry you buy a bottle of the various ink instead and you can refill it up to 10 times. You can get several different types of markers from Winsor and Newton or Set. These ones are the Promarkers, so they have a bullet tip on one end and a chisel nib on the other. I would like to try the brush markers at some point, but at the moment the Promarkers come in the widest range of colours. Markers are also quite a bit cheaper than the Copics because they're not refillable. For me, a Promarker is about half the price of a Copic sketch marker, and I think they're really good if you want to get into marker colouring and you want to test out some markers. Then a set of Promarkers is quite a good idea because you're not investing huge amounts of money in refillable markers, but you are getting a really high quality marker for your money and you can properly test them out. One of the nice things about the design of this marker is that the caps are different on both ends. So if I'm grabbing a marker in a hurry, I will instinctively know to open the pointy end because this is the end that has the bullet tip on it, and that's the tip that I most use. Another nice thing is that the cap has this little ridge here, and that stops the marker from rolling around on your desk too much. So that's nice. I'm now going to swatch out these colours and see how similar they are to the labels. I think this is a really nice range of colours they've given you here in this set. The colours are pretty accurate to the ones on the labels. The ones on the labels I would say are a little bit darker than the colours on the Bristol board are. It might depend on the type of paper you have, but as I'm looking I can see that they're close, they're just a tiny bit darker on the label. And I did notice as I was colouring that, again, like the Copics, the Promarkers are darker when wet. And they do dry nice and streak free, which is really nice. I'm now going to test these out and use this set to colour a drawing. Drawing is now finished, and as you saw I used every colour that came in the set except for the blender and this almond colour here, which is a very pale skin tone. In terms of the ink quality, I think that the Promarkers are definitely on a par with the Copic markers, and I didn't notice too much of a difference when I was laying down the colours. The only thing I would say is that the shades are a little bit more muted than the Copic. The ink is slightly more muted. It may just be that these 12 markers are particular muted soft tones, but I did notice that when I was working with them. I also noticed that the bullet nib softens a little bit once you work with it a bit. I quite liked that because right at the very beginning it was very hard, but after working with it for about an hour it softened quite a bit. So I didn't do too much blending, but the blending that I did do, I found that it blended very nicely and they were really nice to work with. So I think the Promarkers are really great, definitely as good a quality as the Copics. The Copics are still going to be my favourite just because they have refills and there's a much wider selection of colours, and I actually prefer the feel of the Copic markers in my hand as opposed to these, but that's just a personal preference. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, and if you have Promarkers, let me know what you think of them. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.